The key
Love
thing
it.
is the supplier needs to see this. So it's not just a report with a supplier. To engage in collaborative improvement, your supplier needs to have a form of analysis. Now, it may not be as deep analysis as the buying organization, but you want to give your suppliers the ability to slice and dice so they can do their own analysis.
Oh, yeah. Help the supplier help you. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Today we have SudyB, the business doctor, and he's going to prescribe us a treatment plan. Sudy is the Global Vice President, Strategic Engagements at SAP. He has 30 years of supply chain experience, and he's worked with over 150 companies to help them get from where they are now to where they're trying to go, their transformation initiatives. And he's going to share his top prescriptions so that those can be shared, and some of you are going to self-medicate. So, are you ready? Sudy, thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks for having me, Sean. Really appreciate it.
So, can you share a few of your top prescriptions? Out of hundreds of companies, what are some of the most frequently prescribed solutions and prognosis and treatment plans that you run into for businesses?
Yeah, the first thing we want to do is look at just their financials and understand what's happening. A lot of times you're seeing revenue increasing, margins dropping, inventory way up. And lately we've been seeing revenue declining or flattening a little with the economy, and inventory still rising. So just on that note, and it takes a lot more engagement with people to understand the better prescription. But one of the main things you want to look at is how are we changing and how are you reacting when you have a demand shift and a supply shift? How do we compress that so that you can react much faster to changes in your demand to your supply? Sometimes there's laws of physics that mitigate that. But if you're a life sciences organization and you have a 2-year organic custom synthesis process, how do we get it so that you might make 21 months instead of 24 months of material, saving 3 months? So sometimes we just have to look at it as, what's the overall business seeing? And you can see that from financials and then ask some good questions. And we always ask questions. So I almost never answer a question. I always answer a question with a question. So in a technology industry, I'll get a question. Are you build to order, configure to order, assemble to order? What type of business model do you have, or supply chain or manufacturing model do you have? Because that can lead us to some more engagement, more understanding, more discovery.
Yeah, that first initial understanding is so important. So when you see somebody as an example that's going into maybe early maturity, and let's think about somebody that's buying goods regularly, and maybe they're coming from a perspective or an experience where even things like category management are relatively early in their maturity for an organization like this. What are some of those first things that you recommend people think about to help avoid, for instance, the price trap, right? It's kind of easy and sexy just to go lowest price, lowest cost, you win, send them the business. But that really can get you into some hot water. One of my favorite examples of how that would have been disastrous was there was an organization, they're a leading contender in their industry. They were coming into a supply crunch, and they turned around to all their suppliers and they said, don't care about the price, ship me double. And to me, this is absolutely brilliant given the conditions, because it meant that they had the product and all of their competitors that were grinding them on price had no product to take in to go and create the end product for their customers. So that company doubled their market share. It's absolutely brilliant. So when you're early, that's a serious level of sophistication and maturity, and to even bring that level of thinking. But when you're thinking about somebody that's early, that aspires to get there, what are some of the things that you recommend for things like, even just category management as some of the first things to think about in the way that they look at their numbers and look at their business and their suppliers?
I sometimes will, so if I'm talking to a chief procurement officer, chief supply chain officer, have you done an organizational assessment? And if they haven't done it, then I just have a quick way to do it. It's ask everybody in your company to take advanced Excel or intro to analytics. And let's just say there's 30 people in the organization. 10 will complain, 10 will do it, 5 will do it and do it great, and the other 5 will say, I've already done it, why do I need to do this? And with that hearing of the organization, you actually have a good understanding of who needs help, who can help. So
Yeah.
that's one thing, is who's prepared. Next thing is, who are the experts in the organization? Because when we talk about category management, there's going to be some people in every organization that has smart people that do it really well. The key question is, how do you propagate that to the rest of the organization? And that's a lot of
Yeah.
times what we want to help them with. What's your process? I always think the first step in any category is, what are your objectives? So you talk about, the term we would use for what you described was assurance of supply. Now, every company makes bets. So to the company you described, I'd love to meet their risk organization, because that would be the organization that said, we have a supply risk, because they came up with that, and they made the case that says we need to mitigate that risk. So organizations have supply risk, demand risk, customer risk, location risk, people risk. How do you de-risk all those areas? So with a concept of category management, you want to be able to understand your objectives, assurance of supply, quality, on-time deliveries, less lead time. Could be all of them, carbon footprint issues, human rights due diligence, making sure that you're not going to be held up at the Customs and Border Patrol. We've seen evidence that in some cases from certain countries, they're stopping 40% of the inbound shipments from certain regions of the world because of suspicion. And when I saw that
How's that
number,
for a variable?
huge,
Wow.
and I'm like,
Hard to predict lead times with that kind of variability, right?
that has to be higher risk than COVID. As the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and other geographies start to take human rights due diligence more seriously, we're going to see a massive wave of disruptions. So, to your point, how do we mitigate that? So, from a prescription standpoint, really understand what your risks are and how do you mitigate them from a supply standpoint. And then how do you systematically remove it?
Oh, I love it. So if I think about, an organization that largely sources domestically, and they're more concerned about delivery dates and on-time delivery,
Right.
their risk profile and the risks that they're going to optimize for are going to be very different from somebody with a big, long global supply chain and maybe just distributed sourcing across some countries that are under the microscope.
Right. So your first example, lead time and transportation risk are mitigated, but probably price isn't, unfortunately. Your second example, when it's a long global supply chain, you probably have a price advantage. Then you got to be careful of the human rights issues coupled with the lead times.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about the collaboration and sharing insights of, a lot of organizations measure their suppliers really effectively. Some of them aspire to measure those. When you're thinking about that supplier measurement, one of the things that I've loved seeing is those organizations that measure the suppliers that turn around the dashboard and say, hey, here's how we see you're doing. So what sort of demand signals and some of the most important things or most frequent basics do you love to see organizations sharing with their suppliers for demand signals? Are they high maintenance? Are they, is there a lot of changes? Is there, delivery rate, quality? What do you love to see measured and shared back with those suppliers?
So I'm going to answer your question by adding 2 additional words to measure. We want to measure, manage, and improve. We can measure it, but we need to improve it. So I'm a big believer in 6 Sigma: define, measure, analyze, improve, control. And when you are able to engage in what we call collaborative improvement discussions, then you want to make sure your suppliers understand why we're sharing this information. And again, it goes back to, is it lead time? Is it quality? Is it on time and full? What are the right metrics? I'm a big metrics believer, but then metrics are never meant to be just reported. I don't like the word reporting. Maybe that's an arrogance. I like to say the word analysis, because then I can take that analysis and make improvement actions. What's real important to realize is that the improvement actions may not be the business process where the improvement was exposed. So doctor example, got a shooting pain down your left leg. It's usually a disc. Does the doctor look at your left leg or looks at your lower back? And that's just knowledge and experience. So
Yeah.
example here, if we have an organization that's being served by one supplier from 7 locations, and the lead time is great for all 6 except one. Why is that? Well, your ordering process might be different for that 7th. That
Yeah.
might not be in your procurement. That might be in your MRP process, the fix. The pipe to fix it is procurement, because without procurement and information and analytics and analysis, you won't have the exposure and the capability. But then I got to put the right order quantity through that pipe. So the prescription
Yeah,
there,
right on.
one part of the body felt the pain, another part of the body is the fix. And one
You
part of the
order
organ.
100 of them, and then it takes, way longer than you thought to get your 100 because you didn't have it set up to automatically remember your lot size. Minimum order quantity from that one is actually
Right.
200 because they make
Right.
in 200 unit runs. Yeah, it's an easy oversight, and it gets into the why and why and why. And then the improvement action. The reports that show up that people admire and don't do anything about are terrifying.
Right. And the key
Love
thing
it.
is the supplier needs to see this. So it's not just a report with a supplier. To engage in collaborative improvement, your supplier needs to have a form of analysis. Now, it may not be as deep analysis as the buying organization, but you want to give your suppliers the ability to slice and dice so they can do their own analysis.
Oh, yeah. Help
That
the
becomes huge.
supplier help you.
That's right. That's right. And the term I always use is, how does an organization become the customer of choice for the supply base? So the supplier always wants to do business with them. Maybe they like the quantity, they like the relationship, they like the information. You pay on time, you pay ahead of time. You have a working capital opportunity. So it's really a function of how do you work with your supply base to really improve the relationship so they always want to do business with you. So as they innovate, you can take advantage of their innovations.
I love it. I think that idea of being the preferred customer, coming back to that company that turned around to their suppliers when things got
Yep.
tight. Don't talk to me about price, ship me double. I just need the product.
Yep.
What a spectacular way to be a customer of choice for all those suppliers,
Yep. Yep.
especially if you're holding up to the standard behavior for somebody that didn't adapt because their competitor hadn't adapted, grinding on price. Well, that makes
Yeah.
it real easy who they're going to get back to.
That's
That's
right.
amazing. Do you have maybe one last question? Something that organizations that are moving into supply chain transformation, there's sometimes a metric around the relationship or
Mm-hmm.
index or a combination of things that you can look
Yep.
at to help get you a sense of not just the raw data, but sometimes get you a sense of the relationship with a supplier.
Mm-hmm.
I flash back sometimes to a young procurement manager. He negotiated so hard with this supplier that they didn't even want to talk to him when he was in town. And I thought, and you're proud of this? That's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? And there's sometimes that overzealous behavior that starts to show up in metrics. If you're going through some changes, where would you encourage somebody to look to keep an eye out for some of those behaviors that are maybe optimizing myopically, but not for the whole?
There's a combination of factors there. So with every conversation, you have to use the term generative AI. So I used it once today in the sentence. The key thing is, the key thing is, what type of data are you looking at? So one thing to look at is, I've mentioned a couple of metrics like lead time and on time and full. When you have good lead time within the way you want it to be, your suppliers are on time and they ship you on quantity, that actually tells you one thing about the relationship. Then how quickly are you paying the invoices? The other one, even before that, is how quickly our orders have to change, because that's a big problem. That means you didn't have a clear signal to your supplier ahead of time.
Yeah.
So you can look at ordered PO changes, on time, and lead time. And I use the term derivative metrics. You can take those 3, raise it up, and start to look at that as a relationship index. And there's only so many more. Then you can start looking at risk indices and very different types of metrics for that, but still use those as part of your relationship index. But you can look at general operational metrics and roll those up.
I love that you worked in generative AI, because if we can't say ChatGPT in an episode, I think, or generative AI, there's somewhere some bingo card we're failing to fill out. And
Yes.
I think that the back to basics around things as simple as on time delivery and lead times are so important, and it's kind of easy to overlook.
Yeah.
Sudy, thank you so very, very much for joining us today. Any last thoughts that you'd like to leave with folks to help them build a stronger supply chain and procurement if they're running SAP?
Yeah, so on the generative AI topic, I just like to say my phone, if I just type the letter G, it autofills generative. So that is automatic now on my phone and any email. Now, one of the key things is, there's a lot of data, a lot of information. And in order to have leadership understand what you're trying to achieve, having the right information and metrics is crucial. So I always have 3 steps followed by 3 steps on metrics. It's you want to have metrics, and I'm a big believer in leading indicators. So we've used lead time. The purpose of lead time, one purpose is to improve inventory. I can reduce it if I reduce lead time, or with reduced lead time, I can hold more inventory and serve customers. Again, whatever your purpose is. Whatever those metrics are, you want to measure, manage, and improve them that in a way that's quickly, quarterly, and continuously. Because no metric ever is Nirvana day one. So we live in an imperfect world. How do we make it less imperfect?
Love it. Quickly, quarterly, and
continuously.
Continuously. Because that's where you get the improvement. That's where you're doing something about it. Sudy, thank you so very much for joining us today. And if you appreciated this on YouTube, on LinkedIn regularly, hope to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.